everyone. Welcome back to the Talkoffamepod podcast. I'm Kyliemontigney. Today we have Julia Khanna, who is a founder and owner of Khanna Connections, and which is a public relations, strategic communications, and media marketing agency specializing in medical, health, and wellness industries. And Khanna House Studios, a food production, YouTube, podcast, and content creation studio located in Wellington, Florida. Make sure everyone to subscribe and like this episode. And welcome to the podcast, Julie. We're so excited to have you on and learn more about you and your work.
Thank you. I know that's a mouthful, Kylie. You crushed it. Good job. I know. When I have to introduce myself, I'm like, wow, there's a lot to say here.
No worries. I get these. I really do big intros like this all the time. So it's like, it could be much worse than this.
Good. Perfect.
But like,
Perfect.
how do you change odds as a single mother of three kids? I know your kids do like their own businesses, right?
Yeah. Yep. So, basically we just keep everything really family centered. We do everything. We take a team approach to everything that we do. Now I have three children, but one of them is an adult now. So now there's two left at home. But I think that we all kind of understand that we go further together and that it's an all hands on deck approach. And anytime I think anything is approached that way, you'll go further together,
Especially with having young kids, like especially when you start an organization or a business at a young age, like it's just like you need the kind of like adult perspective to kind of help you run your business.
Yeah. So all of my kids have run businesses at very young ages. My oldest one, who's 21 now, she started her business when she was 14. It was a videography production, very successful with it. Same with my younger daughter. She started a spice business. Like she was really into cooking and things like that. But honestly, it doesn't matter how old you are. There's a lot that adults can do to support kids if they are interested in owning or running a business or getting a taste of entrepreneurship at any age.
For sure. Because like no matter how old you are, you can be 5 years old and you can start a business. Like it doesn't matter how old you are. Like you can be older and an adult and start a business. It doesn't matter how old you are to actually start a business.
Yeah, there's a lot of life lessons that they can learn that apply, across the spectrum.
And like how do you bring like kind of like your creative ideas and like business and stuff to your kids?
So actually it's the inverse. The kids are the creative ones. My kids are pretty creative. My art is in public relations, so I happen to be able to make connections where maybe there wasn't a connection before, or thinking of really cool creative out of the box activations for brands and launches. But when it comes to the arts, like the true arts, it's definitely my kids are the more creative ones.
Like it's just like if I know like what most kids like it's just like with parents you're like, oh, my kids teach me, but sometimes you're like, well, it's the other way around. You're like the
Yeah.
parents actually teach the kids. It can be very depending on the situation, right?
Exactly. And then it just depends on what you do with it, right? Like it
Mm-hmm.
depends on your parenting style. So being creative is a very vulnerable experience, right? It doesn't matter how
Mm-hmm.
long you've been creating or what your art is, it's vulnerable because you have an idea in your head or a picture in your head that you believe in, and then you hope that the client or the recipient or even the person you're showing it to is going to see the value in what you're creating. So I think just making sure you're being really supportive to your kids, and even if maybe it's not something you would have created, but always telling them like good job, acknowledging the work that went into it or their creative vision that is a part of it. That's important because it's going
Mm-hmm.
to breed them to keep creating more and more.
You're exactly right. Because like when they like hear someone say those things like, "Oh, you did amazing today," or hear those acknowledgments, whether it's like, "Oh, you did great," or like, "Don't worry, you'll be fine," like, "You got this," like, whatever those acknowledgements seem like those things I said, like, whatever how small or big they may be, like, it's might boost someone's confidence to do it more and more as time goes on.
100%. You don't want to critique someone's art in a negative way. Like there is
Mhm.
definitely a way to give constructive criticism when it's necessary, but it's not always necessary. People's art
It's
is
not
people's
always
art.
necessary.
Yeah.
Because like if you say that to us, say teenager or kid that starts a business, like it would just make them feel like, oh, I'm gonna quit this based off that
Right.
one thing that person said.
Right. And that can absolutely happen. So kids don't have a lot of they don't have the perspective that adults do. So that would be lacking, but that doesn't mean their ideas are lacking. And so for example, if a kid's like, I want to start this business and it's just this easy, we're going to create this product and put it in every single store. Okay, well, maybe every single store is a lofty goal to begin with, but we can do things like set up a lemonade stand or maybe go to one of our community events and be a vendor there, and give them kind of a taste of that experience. But it's always just making sure that you're supporting them and what they, what their ambitions are. Because if you snuff those out, they will stop trying. It's just like anything else. Whatever you give energy to, it's going to propel.
100%. Like, how did like you raise your kids to kind of like become interpreters at such a young age? Like, was it just kind of your own kind of side of it, or kind of like your work kind of turned again to on to them to kind of start like a business type of thing?
No, I think that they definitely took the lead, and then I helped to execute it. So anything that they want to do, I will always throw my support behind 100%. And I think entrepreneurship really just comes from having an encouraging, safe space where you can verbalize, hey, this is what I want to do. And then using your parents as a resource, like that's where your parents come in. They can be the resource that helps you get to and from places, or set up your bank account, start that website for you, with you, really. But we do have a rule, and that rule is that I can't want it more than you do. So that
Mhm.
means that if I ever start to see that you're losing interest or this is becoming my project, then it's time to call it quits, because that's no longer your business. Now it's my business, and I already have few businesses.
Yeah, because it's like if you are doing all the work, then it's just like, what's the point of it if it's actually your business, not my
Right,
business type of thing.
right, exactly.
Like I know like a lot of families like tend to kind of follow like how to support their kids in terms of starting a business or helping with them with their business. But like what type of things do you do like, when your kids start businesses that can help other parents do the same thing?
Yeah, so take every idea seriously. And this applies not just to like running a family business or having your kids start a business. Even in my studio, for example, I have a wide variety of people that are on our team from all different ages and walks of life. Everybody offers a valuable perspective that maybe the next person didn't see. So you can never underestimate the age. You should never underestimate age. You should always be in the company of someone younger and older than you on your council. And I truly believe that. So these kids actually do have a vantage point that we don't have. They see
Mhm.
things that we don't see. So in that same breath, that means that they might see ways to make something better or more efficient, or something that would help the community or that the people need. So take their ideas seriously. That's always step number one. And then step number two is, you have to help scale it for them, right? So like if a child thinks that they can roll a product out tomorrow and it's going to be in every store, it's your job as the parent to no, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do like a lemonade stand. We're gonna try it in the community first, like just help scale them and grow with them. But always just kind of being there, like you're teaching them how to ride a bike. You're just there to catch them if they fall. And honestly, letting them fall matters too. Like you have to let them fall. You have to
Yeah.
be able to see your children in uncomfortable situations. I've watched
Mhm.
my kids have to sell their own products and like have conversations with adults at some of these like food and wine festivals. And sure, it gets uncomfortable sometimes for them. What kid does like speaking to like an adult? But they're in eye shot, so they're always safe. And it's good to teach them those kind of personal and interpersonal skills.
Because like when you see your child fall, it's like a piece of yourself is like broken, it's
Yeah.
just like even though like you do not want to see your kids fail, it's just like that's a part of having this business is to see
Right.
yourself fall because like not every business starts off on the right foot because
Yeah.
like Like when you think of it, like everything's not gonna become successful in a day. Like you can think, oh, I'm
Uh-huh.
gonna hit every studio and stuff in a couple of days and go hit every store. That's not gonna happen overnight. Like sometimes I was think like, oh, this episode's gonna be so popular or something. Then it's not. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just like things don't always attend the way you want it, you know?
Mm-hmm. The thing, what I say all the time is the only thing that I know for sure is that we know nothing at all.
Yeah.
That's it. That is it.
Yeah. That it's just like sometimes we do not know nothing,
No,
honestly. Like we just
correct.
like sometimes we think we know it all, but sometimes most of the time we do
Mm-hmm.
not know anything.
Correct.
But like how does like your team at Khanna Connections help your clients build brand their businesses?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, people come to us, whether it's a small business or a large organization, and depending on which phase of branding they're in, right? So maybe it's a small business that doesn't have a lot of branding yet. Um, so that means we have to help create a brand identity for that person. Or let's say it's an established company that's been around a long time and they're going through a rebrand or they're looking to change their tone a little bit. Well, no different than I shouldn't show up tomorrow with spiky hair without thinking I'm going to cause a shock, right? Should be done
Mm-hmm.
in transitions, or there should be a plan in place. We kind of help in whatever phase that they're in. We always start by assessing sort of where they're already at in their branding journey, what assets they already have, what kind of communication tools that they already have, and then utilizing that to formulate a strategy. So if you're a small business that has no branding, and I mean you could be a podcast show host, you can be anything. Let's say you want to be an online personality. Step one is you have to figure out who you want to be, who you want your brand to be, and how you want it to be portrayed to the public. And everything matters. So everything from your logo, the color choices that you use, your brand's tone. So like I have 3 businesses and they all have distinct tones. They would never sound the same. And that's just because they serve different purposes, not for any other reason than Khanna Connections is authoritative. We work with medical health and wellness. So we're a little bit more of that authority tone. Khanna House Studios, we are a non-intimidating, come as you are, wholesome brand. So the tone of that brand is going to be a lot different as well. And then, it's when it comes to branding, it's really setting forth those rules so that anybody who's involved in your brand knows how to speak accurately, for, on behalf, and through your brand.
Mm-hmm. Like, do like guys like charge like for like businesses come to you guys and like do all these things? You guys like charge all of that?
Mm-hmm. Yep, we do that. And then in part of their branding is public relations. So let's say, your brand is you're a podcast show host. And I don't know more about what some of your longer term goals are or what the goals are for the show, but let's say you're like, hey, Julie, I want to be taken really seriously as an entrepreneurial show. So then we're going to be looking at getting you some press that rounds out why people should be listening to you. Why is this show important? Maybe highlighting some of the guests you've had as the past that will, authoritate you in your field. Looking at some podcast awards for you so that people can start to say, wow, okay, this is a show that we really want to be listening to, or that should stay on our radar. Maybe it's like, hey, we're going to start to offer people some more value. So like, let's say in a newsletter, like here's media opportunities to be on the show. It just depends. It's very individualized, but yep. So people will come to us and we charge a retainer. So they go on retainer, and then we get to work from there depending on what stage that they're in and where we need to jump in and what we need to do.
Ooh, that actually sounds like easy peasy. Like it's just like, oh, you do this and that, then it's like go you just go from rest from right here. It just seems like
Yeah.
the easy type of process, honestly.
Yeah,
But
everything's got to have a plan.
everything has to come with a plan, right? Because if you do not have a
Everything.
plan, then it's
You
like it
cannot
has.
just go willy-nilly. Like it's never going to work. You have to have a plan. We study editorial calendars. We're always studying trends. We're always going up against current and world events and news. Like there's always got to be a plan in place. Always.
In terms of staying on top on trends, like how does Khanna Connections stay up on marketing trends in terms of the industry and stuff and trying to stay on top of everything?
So we cheat. We use tools and softwares that keep us abreast of what's going on the internet, what people are Googling, what's trending right now, what are hit words right now. So we get a briefing. And then the other thing is we also study the news every single day, like the briefings. So we want to know what happened overnight or what's planned for the day and see how we can make that relatable to some of our clients or how that's going to affect our clients.
Because like when you watch those TV things, you do not know how much it's gonna affect until you actually see the news. Because like, how are you supposed to keep doing your business if you actually don't do your research, honestly?
Correct. And that's where, like I said, having a really comprehensive team matters, right? So like maybe my 20-year-old colleagues here, they're on TikTok, they're on social media quite a bit. They know what's trending. They add a lot of value to the conversation, right? Maybe some of my some of the moms that are on the team, they know what's happening in the moms clubs. They know what's happening out in the, feet to street kind of arena. So like offering everyone the opportunity to give their input, it's valuable. I think that the boss or the leader that thinks that they are the team, like they are the party of one, like it's just them, you'll fail every single time. You've got to be taking just a much more comprehensive approach, to leadership.
And like, how does like you and your team kind of secure like TV opportunities or coverage for your clients? As to
That's a
go
good
go back
question.
earlier.
So we do it in a multitude of ways, but let's say that, okay, for example, so it was just listed that pickleball like came in at number one now. It's like the number one sport across all age groups. It used to be more for like senior citizens. Now they're considering putting it into high school and like that's news, right? That means if it's the number one sport, that means there's a lot of people right now that are interested in pickleball as a topic. So we have a sports medicine doctor on our roster. He was the former team physician for the New York Jets. He
Ooh.
does sports medicine ortho. So now it's going to be a pick up the phone, call the news, the local news in his area, people we have, relationships with, and say, hey, this is a great story. This just broke today that pickleball came to number one. How about you hear from a doctor who can tell you 5 ways to prevent injuries on the pickleball courts? Because the news wants interesting topics that their viewers are going to watch. And so we need to kind of anticipate what those topics are going to be, and then find the source, which would be the doctor. Other ways are sometimes the news themselves will put out a query and say things like, hey, we need to interview XYZ, a business owner, or this or that. If we have them on our roster and we think it's a good fit, then we jump in. But the key is that you don't want to abuse those relationships. You got to make sure it's a good fit. Like it has to be a good fit. You don't want to look like you're just going rogue and trying to, stick a square into a circle. Like it's got to be a good fit.
Because like if it's not a good fit, then like you're like, what am I doing
You're
with
gonna
this?
lose credibility with your journalist. You're gonna make your client. You're not gonna represent your client well. There's just a lot of implications that could come from that. So it's just
Yeah.
knowing what's gonna be good, and sometimes it's helping the journalist because like today, one of my journalist friends was asking about they needed an oncologist, which an oncologist typically treats cancer, because they wanted to talk about mastectomies and the actual procedure of mastectomy. So I was able to help her and say, like, how about a breast surgeon that specializes in that? So he's not an oncologist, but he is a surgical oncologist that does that. And then she said, oh yeah, that's perfect. So it's just, always trying to be helpful and again making sure everything is a good fit.
Because like if it's not a good fit, then you're like, when you're at that position where you're at that thing, you're like, why did I choose to actually do this? Like
Right.
this now what I kind of hoped it might kind of do because like sometimes people think like, oh, it's a total opposite of what it's supposed to be asking for.
Right.
Like, do you think like communicating is like basically a huge tool for branding in terms of
Oh, it
basically
is,
marketing?
yeah, for everybody. So I have this giant sign on my studio wall. I'm not at my studio today, but And it says communication is currency, because I truly believe that everything can be bought, paid for, and transacted in great communications. So what you say matters as much as what you fail to say about your brand.
Mhm. Because like the way like you communicate is just like when you not communicate, then people are probably like I need more information, but how are you supposed to give me information if you're not talking? How much you basically need to
Right.
figure out the way you communicate. Because communication is a big way to kind of help you like bring more awareness to what you're trying to do.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. And one thing, so this is very interesting. Sometimes, especially the larger brands, like let's say we get brought in to work with like a hospital system or a giant nonprofit, there's hundreds of employees. It is mind blowing to hear what the CEO will say about the organization versus maybe what, somebody in like a secretarial position will say, or the knowledge that they will have. And that's a problem, right? Because right off the bat, you have 100 people that could be really good stewards of your messaging, accurate messaging, but they don't know it.
Mhm.
So a lot of times, there's a disconnect in the what the internal messaging is that's being put out. And messaging is also how you answer people's questions. So if I ask somebody, hey, what's Kylie's podcast about? And they're like, I think it's about cars. That
Mhm.
person walks away and they think, well, I have no interest there. I don't like cars,
Yeah.
and that conversation began and ended before you ever got the opportunity. And that could have been your best show guest. So
Yeah.
it's, it's definitely important to make sure that everybody is communicating accurately.
Yeah, because like if you say like, "Oh, I'm hosting a podcast or something," be like, "Hey, like I'm hosting a show. Can you come on?" You're like, "Can I get more? Let's just say more information." I'm like, "Well, like let's just say like the show is about I don't know sports as an example, and you're not a sports person. You do not know anything about sports. You probably never watch sports in your life. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's like you actually need to give more information, actually find person for that role. Because if that person does not like sports that you're reaching out to, then you're like, what's the point of reaching
There
out?
you go. Right. Exactly. Exactly.
But like, why should people choose to be part of a connections if they're looking for something to be part of?
Yeah, well, Khanna Connections is more or less that's the PR strategic communication side. So that is a mutual decision. So when a client approaches us, we make sure that they're a good fit for us as well as we're a good fit for them, because there has to be synergy. There's not synergy, it can get a little funky.
Mm,
So, but Khanna House Studios is way more of a membership based approach. So the studio, I don't know if you're familiar with South Florida, but we're here in South
mm,
Florida in Wellington. And that is a hub for all things content creation, videography, live streaming, event studios. That is way more of a membership based atmosphere. So anybody that rents our studio, they're automatically on all of our event lists. So we host all kinds of events. Just next week, we're having an influencer party. So some
mm.
of our local influencers will be there, and we're having a influencer attorney that's going to be able to come talk to them about why they need contracts and how to use contracts, and just, offering them a lot of valuable tools. And I think it's like $20 or something like that. But we also have a polo tent, so everyone's always welcome there. And we just have a lot of events frequently. So a lot of them are at no cost, and at worst case scenario, some of them are like $20.
That actually sounds so much fun. I wish I lived in Florida so I could go to these events. But
Yeah.
like where can people like sign up or look for more information about these events or upcoming events are not like out yet?
Yeah, so you can go to my website at www.khannahouse studios. So that's KHAN as in Nancy, N as in Nancy A, housestudios.com. And I would definitely sign up for the newsletter. The other thing is we also post free media opportunities in there. So everybody should sign up for the newsletter, especially, it's just a good way to get free press for yourself.
Maybe some more press, some more people know your name, right?
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
But like as part of Khanna Connections, you have created Khanna House Studios, which is a YouTube podcast and content creation studio in Wellington, Florida. Like, how can people create content in your studio? Because I saw a couple of videos and stuff on social media, and I thought it was amazing. I was like, this is something that
Thank
I need
you.
to go to Florida for.
They just show up. They show up and literally just sit down, and the videographers are there. Everybody is there ready to do all the filming, all the editing, and they turn back over your edited episodes. So
Ooh.
people typically create, yeah, they do everything. So typically people will have YouTube shows and then they'll extract the audio, which is what we do. And then they'll throw that on RSS, have a podcast and a YouTube show. They'll come in there and they'll do live streaming. So for example, we just had a nonprofit come in there and it was a panel discussion. It was really good information, important information that, tremendously benefited the community. So we were able to live stream that off of their feeds, and I think it had like 4,000 views while it was streaming, which is very interesting because you think if you had an event, would 4,000 people show up? So this is a very efficient way to communicate your messages.
Mhm.
Come in there for photo shoots, they host events. There's a lot of ways to work with us.
That's so much fun, especially with being a podcaster or do something with YouTube or content creation. Like, it's just like to have a studio like that to just go in and just like do
Yeah,
whatever you want there is just like something we need more in every state in the US or out of the country.
absolutely. Absolutely.
But like, where's like some services you kind of provide at the studio? Like, I know you kind of mentioned it a little before, but like, do you guys just do walk-ins or do like online bookings as well?
We typically do online bookings. We do outside shoots as well. So we have also done videography inside and outside. But yep, we have everything online. So you can just go online and click and done. Booked.
Yeah, because like if you book online rather than go in, like it's just like when they say no, you already have another booking, it's just like you just basically got to waste your time for
Right.
nothing, you know? It's
Right.
just like
Exactly.
because I know for me, if that happens to me, I'm like, are you kidding? I just got ready and drove here for nothing. Like,
Yeah,
really?
everybody's busy. We gotta stay ahead of that. We want to make sure everyone gets their studio time.
I know because it's just like you need actually to find the right time to actually like do and make content.
Definitely.
But like, what does like the studio bring to content creators in terms of filmmaking or products, etc.?
Yeah, I think the major point is that it brings convenience, and convenience is key in
Mm-hmm.
2023. Especially content creators. It's the boom of independent media. There's just never been a better time to be a content creator. So a lot of content creators have found their way of monetizing, and they're busy. They're business owners. They are business owners. Just because they're creating content doesn't mean they're not business owners. They are managing their brands, they're managing brand collabs. So to be able to have the convenience of us just wrapping up all their content literally like with a bow and handing it back to them. It's all done. It's all edited. Your lower thirds are all in there. All your handles, everything is done. We even offer services to post the content. So imagine you come in there, you create it, and then now it's already up and circulating. Like that's so nice. And that frees up your time so you can manage your brand.
Yeah, because like the more like you manage your brand and do it in this like studio, because I know content creation, like you do all these things, like basically trying to brand someone's company or make TikToks to grow your following or YouTube or what type of content you make, whether it's like fashion or dancing videos or whatever it is. Like it's just always that type of branding you need to use to
Right.
actually promote your thing, whether it's brands, like your organization or business, like whatever works. Because like if they post you on your account and you post a couple things a day, like it's just like you are one step further than you were an hour ago.
Right. Exactly.
But like you are the editor-in-chief of the Wall PC magazine, a communist for Asta dogs and around Wellington, and contributor to USA Wire. Like that, like I'm so like surprised that you're doing all these things. Like, how do you like handle all these like with
I
your
have a
schedule?
great team. That's how I have an excellent team. They are very, very talented. Um, and we do enjoy creating we enjoy being the news as much as we enjoy getting people on the news or in press. We enjoy journalism as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to always find, just like when we're pitching, we're always trying to find what is it that the public wants to hear? What do they want to learn more about? What do they want to know? What are the questions that are not being asked? Like the other night, I had the opportunity to interview a Holocaust survivor, and
Oh,
his son. Yeah, it was amazing.
that's so cool.
His name was Mordecai Samuels, and they made a movie about him called I, Mordecai. So I got to interview him and his son. The son was the producer, director, writer for it all. And I asked him a question. I said, "Did you learn anything new about your dad that you didn't know before this process?" And he stopped and he said, "Oh, I don't think anyone's asked me that before." That is the money shot. That's what you want to hear. You want to be asking the questions that no one else has asked,
Yeah.
not the same routine questions that everyone else has. I mean, some questions are formality, you have to ask, but you really want to get to those questions where no one else has asked. And then I asked Mordecai, I said, if someone told 10-year-old Mordecai that he was going to be on a movie screen, what would he have said? And again, was a question that no one had asked him. And his answer was amazing. He said it was a miracle, a dream come true. He would have never imagined being on the big screen. So we enjoy both. We enjoy being the news as much as we do reporting to the news, for the news, with the news.
Right? It's just like when you're young, you never imagine what you're doing now.
Yeah.
But like to go with that question earlier, like, did you ever picture yourself doing your work like you're doing now with the studios and stuff? Like, did you ever imagine doing what you're doing right
No.
now?
Nope, I still have pinch me days. I'm like, can't believe this is mine. Can't believe, but again, we did it together. We do it together. It's us thing. We got a great
hmm
team. Very, very
Yeah,
blessed.
it's just like the team is always important in terms of big business. It's like
Team is
you
the
can't
most
do it on
important
your
part.
own.
Yeah. The team's the most important part. And you have to also know how to cultivate a good team. You don't just
hmm
stumble upon them. There's a lot that goes into it, a lot that goes into the relationships and making sure that you're hearing your team, receiving their feedback, including their feedback. There's a lot. Giving them
hmm
autonomy, giving them creative freedom. Like that's another thing. Sometimes we have to create things and it goes in front of all of us. That's not easy. None of us think the same. If we did, that would
Yeah.
be so boring. So there are definitely times, some things I see that I'm like, oh, I don't know, but that doesn't mean what I think to be true is right. That doesn't make me
Yeah.
right just because I don't like it.
Yeah, because like every person has different opinions. You do not have to like something,
Right.
Because
Correct.
I know
Yeah.
other people might like it, but you might not, because everyone has different like personalities in terms of what they like.
Mm-hmm. And I have to lean on them sometimes, like, hey, would you guys interpret with this, or what do you think about this, and hear them out, because my way is not always right. My interpretation is not always correct. That's the thing about art and being creative. It's so multidimensional.
For sure. And like the last thing I have for you is, what is some advice for interpreters or basically content creators that kind of want to get PR or build their personal brand?
So establishing your own identity first. A lot of times people have not taken the time to commit to discovering who they are online and who they want to be. And the person that they are online doesn't always match the person they are in real life, and that's okay. Sometimes people create avatars, especially content creators will do that to protect themselves, preserve themselves, right? They don't always want to be that person that they are on the camera as they are off the camera. That's fine. As long as they have that discussion with themselves and realize that, so that they don't create like internal turmoil. And the same goes for a brand. Like, you're probably not ready for PR if you as a brand aren't sure who you are or what you're trying to accomplish. There's a lot of things that have to take place before you're ready for PR.
Yeah, basically, if you do not know its mission or what you're trying to do, then like,
Right.
why is
Or
the
who
point
you
of
want to
reaching out to
speak to or connect
organizations you
with.
don't
Correct.
know?
There's a lot. I meet brands all the time that tell me, when I ask them, like, who's your target audience? They say, everyone, anyone and everyone. No, that's not exactly true. Even
Yeah.
if they think it's true. It's not true. That's not true. And that is not going to take you far.
Yeah, it's not gonna take you far because like you actually want to know who your target audience is. Like for
Right.
me, it's young kids. Like whether it's girls or boys. Like I aim for young kids. You know, there's a lot of adults that watch podcasts. I mostly aim for young kids because it's like kids need inspiration. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's just like no matter how old you are, you might be 18 watching this podcast. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just like no matter how old you are, like what business you have to have that target audience and what you're trying to aim for.
Absolutely. Listen, you are an excellent host and you should be very proud of yourself. This was a great podcast. I think it's gonna do, I know it's already doing well. I've already watched a few of your episodes before today. So it's good. I'm happy for you.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much. Like your like businesses are amazing. And next time I'm in Florida and in South Florida, I'll definitely check the
Yes,
studios out. I definitely want to come sell bags. So if I come down, I'll let you know. But
I would
it's
love
a
that.
pleasure to have you. You are terrific and doing so amazing things. And
Thank
if you or
you.
your kids need help at anything at all, with
Oh,
promoting or anything like that, or hosting, whatever it is, just let me know. I'll be happy to help.
I really appreciate that. Thank you, Kylie. It was very nice.
Of course. Have a
You
great
have a
rest of your
great
day.
weekend.
You
Okay, you
too.
too.
Bye.
Bye.